Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mike Curtis.
Here.
Amber Brown.
Here.
Jerry Sartain. Here. Joe Machado.
Here.
Gary Farley. Renee Curtis.
Here.
Zane Cantrell.
Present.
We have a quorum.
We have, you have already before you the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any changes or additions?
Move to be approved, Mr.
Have a
Chairman.
motion to be approved. Have a second. Call the roll, please.
Mike Curtis.
Yes.
Amber Brown. Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
Joe Machado.
Yes.
Renee Curtis.
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The first item of business is a request by Holly Stacy, Leanna Investments, requesting a variance relief for from a 5-foot setback, and they're needing 2 foot 1 inch from the property line. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2022-4, filed by Holly Stacy, involves a property located at 3550 Courtney Lane. It's a request for variance relief of the required 5-foot setback requirement for signage to allow a sign 2 feet 1 inch from the property line on the property located in the RM medium density residential zoning district. So this is the property in question, and you can see in the aerial, and this aerial is from early 2021, that the sign is already located in its current location. And this is the result of the applicant has been notified by the building department that they needed to obtain a sign permit. The applicant came in and applied for the sign permit, but when we looked at the plot plan, it was too close to the front property line. So the subdivision had been platted several years ago. They actually came through, I think in 2018, and replatted that lot to include a sign easement. Now that plat was reviewed by all of the utility companies, and they signed off on the sign easement being located at the corner of that lot. And you can see in the plot plan, they've kind of identified the sign easement. According to the applicant, I believe that the person that was installing the sign had used the markers that were identifying the entirety of the easement as the parameters for which they could put the sign. And if they had applied for a building permit, we would have caught that before a permit was issued. Staff finds that there's no hardships with this particular case. They could have installed a sign that was compliant with the setbacks. The sign is already in its location. We did have engineering go out and see if there were any issues with safety, with sight vision for people exiting the property, and he didn't find that there were any issues with that. The electric company was okay with the sign being located so close to the electrical pole that you can see in the aerial. However, they did express some concern about the existing vegetation or the vegetation that they planted. So they did not want the type of vegetation that would grow into, obviously, the power lines. We did not receive any phone calls regarding this request. We posted a sign on the property. So this is a picture of the sign, and this is the house that's under construction on that particular lot. And so this is vegetation on the opposite side. That's across the street. This is the stop sign, and you can see. And engineering did say, the inspectors did say that if safety was a concern, if you stop right at the stop sign, it does obstruct the view, but you've got plenty of room to move up a little bit, and they could actually paint a stop bar that would be off of the right-of-way and allow that person to see beyond the sign to make sure they don't pull out in front of other vehicles. So this is the plot plan that was supplied with the application, and you can see the location of the sign. This is the elevation of the sign. Obviously, it's changed, the text and how it's placed, but in reviewing it, it's still the sign area, which is around the letters itself met the area requirements, which is 40 square feet. They're allowed to have a 40 square foot sign. It does not include the structure. And that concludes our presentation.
Any questions?
Danielle, is there any other violations other than the location as far as the sign being compliant?
As far as the sign, not that I'm aware of other than the sign. We cannot issue a permit for the sign. She cannot remedy this outstanding issue until she either gets a variance and a permit but I don't know if there's any other issues with the subdivision.
There's no reason that can't be moved, is what I'm asking.
Oh, no, she's got plenty of room within the easement. She could even modify the existing sign
Trying to
by a few
establish
feet.
some type of hardship because
Right.
there isn't one.
There isn't, I mean.
Okay, thank you. I noticed the power pole there. How actually close to that sign is that power pole? It's kind of hard to tell from the photo.
Engineering looked at it. I think it's just right up on top of it, maybe 5 feet at the most. But we did reach out to Middle Tennessee Electric. Even though they reviewed the plat and the location of the sign easement, we did make sure that they were okay with the location of that sign being there.
You say that it would block traffic?
No, it would not block traffic. It has not caused any issues so far. Our inspector went out there. He had no concerns. The only suggestion that he made that if there were safety concerns, they could paint a stop bar just a few feet from that stop sign, and that would prevent people from, inching out into the road.
Can you go back to the picture of the sign that shows us the bush beside of it?
Yes, sir.
I would say that part of the danger may be that you have these tall bushes, which is kind of an extension of that sign where you can't see people coming down the road.
It is. However, when I went out there and posted the zoning sign, I had plenty of room to determine if it was safe to pull out. But yes, it could become a problem as it grows.
So-
I have, go ahead, Amber, go ahead.
I was just going to say, can a condition be that vegetation be removed if we do approve for it to stay?
I would
Because
imagine.
I think my concern is just as the bush grows, because I'm assuming this is a newer, I don't know what to call it, but I'm sure this is new, but I just think about how large it can grow and end up causing an issue. And it might not. That might be what the vegetation will look like, but just curious if a condition can be added for that.
I would imagine that the applicant might be agreeable to such a condition that would allow them to keep the sign, and that they could just install some vegetation that isn't as tall.
Nay?
Considering long-term county planning, this Central Valley Road looks like it's a lot like Rucker Lane off of 96. In the future, what is the plans do we know the plans for Leanna Central Valley Road, and will it be widened as of Rucker Lane? And if so, it looks like by the easement that it's going to be, the road will be right at the corner of that bush.
I'm not aware of the long-term plans. Our long-range transportation map that we can turn on was prepared many years ago, and it's in need of update, but there is no plans to update that long-range transportation plan. Now, that's the best that I can offer
So
for
what is
that.
the, like I said, 96 is for Rucker Lane, so what are the end and beginning of Leanna Central Valley? Because I know the area is growing with leaps and bounds, and I don't want us as a county to get down in 5 years and say, well, this road needs to be widened, and now they're sitting on, what kind of issue are we going to have with their sign being already existing for 7
Right.
years?
Well, they're pretty small lots to begin with. It would be kind of like, I don't know if you, where they put Veterans Parkway, where Valley View, and they had to go back and purchase a lot of properties that were just platted.
Right.
And it resulted in us having to consider variances.
Right.
At that time, I imagine they would be required to modify if it was a right-of-way and it was a planned improvement.
But if we give them the variance and then the county comes back and needs that area back, then what do we get into?
So, right now, what we require when we review a plat is we look at the road book and we see what the required right-of-way is. Now, I didn't look for this particular one, but I imagine it's 50 feet. That's what most of them are. And a lot of times, these properties that existed before this, the property line went to the center line of the road. And so when we review the plats, we require them to dedicate, even though it was used as a right-of-way and prescriptive rights exist, we require them to dedicate that portion of the right-of-way to the county for the right-of-way. So if there were any concerns about the construction of a larger road, it would have been mentioned during that process, and additional right-of-way could have been requested, but it wasn't.
So when they built the sign, it wasn't requested, but now that the sign's not where it was supposed to be,
the subdivision plat, okay, and the sign easement was a revision, and so no one requested any additional right-of-way at that time.
yeah, but it's not where it's supposed to be, even it's.
No, the sign's not where it's
not
supposed to
anywhere,
be.
yeah.
However, it is within the easement, because that was
Right.
another issue we brought up to
Yeah.
the applicant, because we had kind of merged the aerial with the plot plan, and it looked like there was maybe some encroachment onto the actual lot too, but they field located, we notified the applicant, they field located it, and the surveyor indicated that it was within the platted easement.
Thank you.
Joe, did you have a question?
This sign was built without a permit,
Yes, sir.
but you also said that it would have been caught if they'd have got the permit, right?
Yeah, if it had gone through the review for a sign permit, before they put it up, it could have been prevented.
Thank you.
It's my understanding that the applicant has been made aware of this for over a year by the building department to come in and get the sign permit.
Thank you.
Let's hear from the applicant. Do we have who's representing this? I am. You'll come around, please, to the podium. Just give us your name. Come around this way. There you go.
Holly Stacy, and I'm representing Leanna Investments.
Share any other information you might want to about this sign.
Well, when we did the sign, I wasn't aware that we had to, when we first done it, all I was under the impression when Huddleston and them explained to me the process of everything, I thought all I was supposed to do was go and make sure that I got all the easements signed off on with CUD and Middle Tennessee Electric, because the way that lot sat, the utilities were awful, and they all ran into each other. And so that was what the main problem was on doing the sign. Well, when you're building $500,000 houses and up, they want something grand in that area. And it's Leanna Central Valley Road, so, you know, it's a county area. You want it to be pretty. You want it to look nice. So I took the plans. I went to an engineer, Creative Home Designs, and I had them plot out what Huddleston had drawn out, which you guys had seen, and then merged them together and took them to CUD and Middle Tennessee Electric to make sure that everything was in the bounds. Tommy Oliver, which is the one that dug the footers, he required Huddleston to go out and put a stake in the ground so that he would know where to put those footers. It was we did everything we were supposed to do, except I did not understand that I had to go down to the bottom floor, so that was my fault. But this is basically my first rodeo on this, so I didn't understand that I wasn't directed to do that, and that's my mistake. It's 2.1 inch, or 2 foot 1 inch over towards Central Valley Road. We did not get in anything else. I don't have a problem taking the vegetation down. I've never had any issues, never had any complaints. We've been there for several years now. It's a pretty sign. If we take that down, I'm not rebuilding it. After we've spent almost $10,000 building that sign. So, I just feel like we've had issues ever since we started this neighborhood. It's been one thing after another, and I'm just not gonna do it. So if we take, we could take, I don't mind taking any of the vegetation down. I don't mind redoing all of the landscaping around it. We've already agreed with the homeowner on that lot. We'll saw it all the way around it. I don't even mind paying, to have the line that you were talking about, if that's an issue. But to be able to take the way that they've done the sign, we would have to be able to alter it, we would have to knock the whole thing down. And there's, like I said, I just can't. The homeowner's getting ready to close on their property. It's not fair to her, and they're tearing up their yard, and I just don't want to do that to them. So I don't know what else to do at this point. It's my fault, and I apologize.
You understand that we cannot consider monetary if it's a $2 sign or a $10,000 sign.
And that's fine too. I get that, but it is so far off the road that, like I said, I've never had any complaints. I've never, you can see around the sign, and if you've seen all the easements that we had to work around, it just, I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
Would you be agreeable, looking at the picture up there, when a car pulls up, they have to look around the tall stuff at the end of it?
We'll take all of it down. I don't have a problem having all of that removed.
The sign itself could be the furthest sticking out so that you could see traffic.
So you could remove some of that vegetation there?
Oh, yeah. The sign actually curves.
got
So if we took down like the 2 tall trees,
There's no vegetation out past that sign toward the road.
we can do that.
So that people can see past it.
Yeah, that's not a problem. We don't mind doing any of that. The power lines in the back, if they have a problem with that, we can remove the trees. We just had some decorative trees, but the only reason we did that is because when I had talked to Middle Tennessee Electric and I went down there on that, we were just trying to disguise it so that it would you wouldn't see so many of them, but we can take all of that down too, because you can kind of see, we just had, it looks like he did crepe myrtles back there.
I don't have any trouble if Middle Tennessee Electric does it, but it doesn't look good there. So
Well, that's not, I kind of agree with them. I think it may be a problem later on. So I don't have a problem taking any of that stuff down. But that was our reasoning for putting it up, so.
Well, the sign is already further than it should be, and then we added, I say we, more bushes were added past that, makes the sign even about twice as long as it would be without those.
Well, like I said,
And the only ones that really matter are the ones that where people pull out and look down the road.
Like I said, even with the trees there, I guess you would just have to, I'm like, you can see very well. It's not.
Okay, is there any other questions?
know.
I think we've
Yes,
got a
sir.
good idea.
I have one more question. Going forward, once this house on the corner is finished and sold, currently, I take it since you're the investments people, and that's who it shows on the property records is who the current owner is. Whoever buys this, it's going to be on their property. How is it going to be maintained? Who is going to maintain it going forward?
The HOA actually will maintain that sign, And
Okay,
it-
so there is an HOA with this
There is
subdivision?
an HOA,
Okay.
and it is already in the restrictions that that is to be maintained. It's got irrigation that's already up there. It's got a slow drip irrigation, just to keep everything looking nice. It's tore up right now, because like I said, it was a combination of him getting ready to do the yard in the winter time, and I wanted to make sure that we knew what we were doing here before I finished it off. So.
Hey, thank you very much. And
Is it a single-sided sign? So the curve is the only place you can see that that's Madison Cove? There's not anything behind it?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It's just that, the curve.
And there was no way to put it in the middle, like when you turn on Courtney Lane, like in the middle of the road, like, you know how you see a lot of subdivisions?
Oh, no, ma'am, there wasn't enough road. I mean, there wasn't enough room to do that.
Okay.
That would have been my initial, that's what I would have
Yeah.
liked.
How many subdivisions currently do you have under construction?
Right now, this is the only one I've got. We've got another one that we're working, but right now, we're just working on the grid staking. So I will know next time.
You do understand, I mean, if we do this, you know.
Yes, I know.
We're opening up a can of
It was
worms.
A lesson learned. So, yes, no, I will, yes.
Hindsight's 20/20, yeah, I hate that for you, though.
Perfectly, I do, I completely
Yeah.
understand.
I understand. Thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Commissioner Rather. Now, this guy used to be on this BZA, and we sure miss you.
I do want to apologize for my attire. I had no plans of being here tonight. You don't want me to take my hat off. Trust me. He's got one on. I looked at this application weeks ago. It didn't dawn on me that it was on this tonight. I was actually here for the next one. But the years I served on this board, and y'all have heard me say this before, a variance is a totally different animal in my mind than other things we dealt with. And there were a lot of things we dealt with that we pretty much had to make a judgment call. For the most part, well, a little part. You know, there's criteria to be met and all that. A variance, I'm concerned because a variance is very, very specific about shape, topography of the land and hardships and things like that. And variances are not, I learned this years ago, variances are not something that a county wants to just start handing out. And once we start that process, then you set the precedence that that's how it's going to run from now on. And I hate that for the applicant. I think I heard you say 500,000 and up homes. With an HOA, maybe as people start moving in, the HOA gets together and builds a sign where it's supposed to be. But so Gary Farley always wants me to make a recommendation, and my recommendation is this: if this board looks real close at the definition and the terms of variance and make the best call you can make. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion on this. Joe?
I guess I hate to be the bad guy, but I move that we deny it.
Regrettably, I second that motion. Sorry.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Chairman, it would be good for the record if Mr. Machado could just provide a reason or two for the record.
The reason for it is that it doesn't meet any of the qualifications, and therefore it's sticking out too far into the right-of-way. Thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Did you hear?
We've closed the public hearing.
Mike Curtis,
Yes.
Amber Brown,
No.
Joe Machado,
Yes?
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Renee Curtis,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
No. Got, what was the call? Did you get the number?
It was a majority that passed the motion, so
Motion, right.
the denial stands.
Denial stands.
The next item we have is a request by Martin Romez, and this is for a special exception for a major home business and storage of equipment and material for a construction company. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2022, that's an error. 5 involves the property at 117 Blue Fox Trail. It's a request for special exception for the establishment of a major home-based business involving the storage of equipment and material for a construction business upon a property located in the RM zone. And the highlighted property is the property in question. This application is a result of a code enforcement complaint for an improved business. The applicant has been storing materials and equipment on the site for a construction business. They were notified multiple times. Eventually, they came in and applied for a major home-based business. Currently, the applicant uses this a private drive that is belongs to this gentleman back at 7876 Powell's Chapel Road to access the rear of the property. The plans that were submitted by the applicant included the construction of 1,104 square foot barn that's on the property. The property is located in the Sumar Crossroads subdivision, and in that plat it also has a 20-foot rear drainage easement along the rear yard. So this area cannot be constructed in. And there has been some modification, and you'll probably hear from someone later, and I have some photos that were provided that there may be some flooding issues already due to the site being modified. So the applicant would like to continue to operate the business on site. They are asking to store 3 GMC trucks, 2 skid steer, a mini excavator, a dump truck, and towing trailer. The initial complaint was about noise in an unimproved business. The construction of the 46 by 24 barn that they would like to use for storage. His property's 0.89 acres. When you are less than 1 acre, you can have up to 2,000 square foot of detached accessory structure area. Currently, on the property, the structure that's located there, the detached garage with like a covered carport, measures approximately 1,630 square feet. So really, the applicant, with his proposal, would exceed the 2,000 square feet by 734 square feet. And a variance would be needed before he could build a structure that large, or he could modify the existing structures to come into compliance. But every lot that is up to 1 acre in Rutherford County is entitled to 2,000 square feet of detached accessory structure area. I did, while I was processing the application, when I discovered that he would exceed that threshold, I did call and left a message that a variance would be needed. Never heard back. So tonight we are just considering the use of the home-based business. So there's several issues that we came across, which was already discussed, the drainage easement along the back. If there's any alterations back there or activity, it could cause that drainage easement to not work as it was originally planned. The pickup and delivery of equipment and vehicles, that's been mentioned as one of the issues that people have, neighboring properties have already experienced, and that resulted in the complaint. And the site doesn't contain a lot of vegetation to provide any screening. There's no fencing. I think one of the neighbors has a fence, but there is no fencing along two property boundaries. And lastly, the applicant had included in their application that they were given permission by that property owner to the north that has the private drive to use that drive to access the rear of their property. I have been notified, not by the owner of that property, but I've been notified that that permission is being revoked, and so he would not be able to access the property from the rear yard in the future. And another concern that we have, often we find, especially with access easements, people, are agreeable to allow someone to use an easement until it becomes a problem. So when you have a change of ownership, the next property owner might not allow them and would have every right to deny them the ability to access that property. So we find that the request does not meet all of the criteria for a major home-based business. So I'm just going to show you some photos.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
While you got that photo up there.
Okay.
Was the intention put the barn in the back and to access it through the driveway?
I believe so.
Because do I see where there isn't really room to get to the barn from the driveway?
Well, when people, he just showed us like a basic plan.
Well, I mean, his own driveway at the front of his house.
On his own property,
How would he
yeah.
access
Something would have to be modified for him to be able to access the rear of the property. I believe his septic area is somewhere around here or in the front of the yard, but he would encounter issues. And if he does not have access to that rear yard, then you have all of that construction traffic coming down a local street and of subdivision. Now, I took some photos when we posted the sign on the property. We received numerous phone calls, and I passed out a minimum of 4 letters to you, and some photos were also presented with some of those letters, and I'll just share that with you.
Danielle, as you're kind of flowing through that, it's just, I'm curious, this is under an acre parcel?
0.89, yes, it's
Okay.
less than an acre.
And I saw in here too, skid steers, those are the ones where someone's enclosed?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to visually
I'm not
make
great
it
with
make
equipment
sense what's
either.
happening on there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I prepared this map just to give you an idea as to who we've heard from. And the properties in yellow are the persons that submitted something in writing or photos. The blue is the applicant's property, and this red property is just to give you an idea, this is the private drive, this is the property that it serves. I have not heard from this property owner, so I don't want to imply that it has. And I have, these are photos that were provided by some of the neighbors. This is a photo that accompanies one of the letters. It looks like drone footage, but there's been multiple issues. They burn construction materials on site, and I think one of the letters goes into detail about the chemical smell and just the nuisance. And I believe this is a photo of them burning things at night. Not quite sure, but maybe they'll be here to explain. And this is just, they're storing pallets, material. And then this is a photo supplied by someone having drainage issues. Maybe it's the result of the drainage easement being kind of modified. So, and Tanya, did you have anything you wanted to add?
This became a zoning enforcement issue in October of '21. We received a call from the same neighbors of noise, construction materials being stored there, and the inspector went out and verified that that in fact did exist. The homeowner did work with us for a couple of months, cleaning up a little bit. We put it on a periodic check, and they cleaned up a little bit for the first couple of months and then appeared to just stop. So we had sent them a letter for a citation to court, and that was when the application was made for the BZA.
With those folks adding the gravel in the drainage area, is that not, that's not correct, that they can come
Who are
in
you
and,
directing that to?
I was asking Tanya or her, or
Okay, so-
Danielle, either one.
It's an older subdivision, but usually when drainage easements are created, it's because maybe the natural flow path goes
Yeah.
through that part of the property. So when you go and you elevate it by any
That's what I'm
means,
saying.
it affects.
It's not allowed for them to raise that up. That's the,
Typically not, if it results in flooding. I mean, every day someone probably puts something in a drainage easement, but if it impacts a neighboring property, that's when we hear about it, and that's when it gets corrected.
Danielle, I have several questions, several of which you've already answered without me having to ask them, so that's great, thank you. Just for clarification, what is the definition of a front yard for the front yard setback?
Okay, well, to give you the idea, it's RM, so it's a 40-foot front yard setback unless the plat indicates otherwise, because a lot of times the plats would impose a larger setback because of the septic holes being located in front of the property, but it's the open space between the front property line and the front setback.
Okay, so this private street in the back is...
It's the driveway.
It's just a driveway, it doesn't count as a street?
No.
And no, okay, all right. I was concerned that we might have two front yards here.
Right. No.
And then also the imagery from the spring of 2021 shows, and granted, this is more than a year ago,
Right.
shows more vehicles and equipment than what they're asking for. So I would just like the applicant to express what's going to be going on with that. That's just something coming up.
We'll get that. We'll give you a chance in a minute. Let's hear from the applicant. If you'll come forward, please. Whoever's representing this request, if you'll come forward. To the podium. Give us your name and start out. Tell us the items that you will have stored there, that you've had stored there and will continue to store.
Okay. My name is Martin Ramos, and what I'm planning to do is put my equipment. I have equipment like excavator, one mini excavator, 2 skid steer, and one dump truck, one axle dump truck, and 2 towing trailer. It's all what I need to put in there, and some material, like brick or block, but that's when I have some extra material on the job site, I just bring it there, 2 skid steers.
2 skid steer.
2 skid steer.
Okay, and you have 3 GMC trucks that are employee trucks?
I'm sorry. The 3 GMC includes the dump truck because it's GMC.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's, okay.
So only 2 trucks and that one
Dump truck.
dump truck.
Okay. 2 trucks, 1 dump truck, a mini excavator,
Yes,
2, and you had in your application 2 skid steer, a mini excavator, a dump truck, 2 trucks, and a towing trailer?
right. That's
Just
correct.
one?
Two of them.
Two?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Yeah,
different.
we just buy one.
Construction material.
And
Yeah,
construction.
construction material.
Renee, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. When did you purchase the property on Blue Fox Trail, Mr. Ramos?
In August 2020.
2020. And where did you store all of your equipment prior to 2020?
In that property.
So you did not own the equipment prior to purchasing Blue Fox Trail?
Yeah, I mean, the equipment, I just buy it, but after I moved there.
You only bought the equipment after you purchased your property on Blue Fox Trail in
Correct.
2020?
Correct.
You did not own any excavating or any business?
I had one skid steer.
One skid steer.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, did you do? Okay. Joe, do you have any? No. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you.
We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Commissioner, you're
I've
earning your
always-
pay tonight.
I know it. I'm losing money. I always wait and let everybody talk, but I pick my daughter up. I'm going to be late. I'll be in trouble by two women in my house. The pictures speak for themselves. The codes department being called and very little response from the homeowner based on, you know, what the codes says for him to do. I just recently, in the last 15, 20 minutes, did talk to the guy that owned that private drive, and yes, he is cutting that off, and he'll be addressing that here shortly. Another concern, I didn't realize there was flooding out there, so I don't think anything needs to be done other than codes doing their job, continuing to do their job, and get the engineering department out there to look and see why other people's properties are flooding. If that access road, that private road's cut off, this is a cul-de-sac that people moved out there to not have through traffic. Cars flying down the road like on my road, they're doing 75 and a 30. It's a cul-de-sac. Kids are riding their bicycles, their skateboards. And then you've got two trailers with a mini excavator, a skid steer. Those are not just any trailer you can go buy. You have to have an equipment trailer for that. I have one. And they're tandem axle and a dump truck. The county maintains this cul-de-sac road. Is that correct? So the road gets torn up because access is cut off. The access should be cut off. So y'all have seen the pictures. It's horrendous if you look at other properties and imagine yourself living there on that street or even around it. It would almost make you not want to live there. But you bought that home, the homeowners bought those homes, quiet street, houses all around. This is not way out in the county somewhere on a 10-acre tract, and behind the trees are heavy equipment and burning and all that. This is a neighborhood. It's a cul-de-sac. It's a neighborhood. This is not a place for it. It's not a place for a junkyard either. And that's what I look at when I look up there. I would say if he didn't have approval in the first place and he doesn't comply with codes, there's a pattern of behavior. When he burns stuff, I want to know, is he burning between May and October or October and May, because you have to have a permit. I couldn't burn last Saturday because I couldn't get a permit. The wind was blowing too much. My neighbor started burning, and the fire department showed up and sprayed it down and put his fire out. So I think there's a pattern of behavior, of non-compliance. Put yourself in the neighbor's shoes out there. Would you want that out there? And it's illegal. And if the building is built, I go back to what I said on the first application about a variance. It's not a hardship. There's nothing wrong with the ground that makes him want to put a barn in. It's a variance. And I've always kind of been a stickler about variances, and with that, I'm gonna go get my daughter, and my recommendation for Gary Farley, since he's not here, he always wants a recommendation. My recommendation is to deny this application.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, anyone else? Come forward, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Vic Zacharias. I am the owner of the driveway. I gave this gentleman permission to use my driveway a little bit under the conditions that he would keep it up, and but because it's actually been tore up even worse. I get a lot of trash blown across the driveway into the trees on the other side of the driveway constantly. I'm always picking up trash, and I have recently been getting complaints from the neighbors about the noise and the problems that it's causing. It looks horrible. I talked to the gentleman. I told him day before yesterday that I give him 2 weeks to use the driveway, get his equipment out, whatever he needs to do, and then he can't use it anymore. I'm going to block it off. So,
Thank you. Next, anyone else?
What was his address and where is he located? I mean, I know he owns a driveway. 78. The red, okay, all right, thank you.
Anyone else? Come forward, please.
My name is Tracy Sloan, and I live next door at 113 Blue Fox Trail. I was the one that had all the water in my backyard, but and also I want to say that I'm not the one that complained. I actually have never complained. So I want my next door neighbor to know that it wasn't me, but I have the right to speak now. The first thing I would like to, talk about is this construction business has been going on for 2 years. So once he moved in, there was stuff everywhere, in the backyard, whatever. And, with me living next door, I've lived here for 17 years, and some of my neighbors have lived here since 1996 when the properties were built. So it's an eyesore. There's I don't really have to say, but of course you see the pallets, bricks, wood, and everything else back there. There's been noise problems, at times. Lately it hasn't been bad, but I think, it's just kind of calmed down a little bit. Property value, if a construction business is right beside my house on a less than an acre lot, I mean, my property value is going to decrease, and plus, maybe one day I want to move to Florida. I'm ready. I've been working a long time, almost ready to retire. I couldn't sell my house for what it's worth. So, property value is an issue, and it also affects my neighbor's property value. So it's that's an issue. Honestly, we have privacy issues. I don't know if that's I'm supposed to talk about that, but it's we can't even hardly sometimes go out in their backyard. With things going on back there. So, at times when the weather's warm, there's a lot more going on. I have nothing against them personally. I honestly don't. But, when I bought that property, or bought my house 17 years ago, I wanted a place where I could, when I get home, relax and this and that. So, now it's a lot of, it causes a lot more noise, commotion, and plus the, like I said, just the eyesore and that. And as far as in the back, which, most of them's already spoke about this, but, the drainage problem, I will say this, he was not the one, where the drainage comes out there, it was flattened out by the previous neighbor. So I'm not going to sit here and he did not do that. And then he built the the gravel up on the, off the driveway back there. It seems like the flooding is worse now than what it was. I mean, I've always had a little water, had some water, but it's gotten worse. And so, that would, honestly needs to be fixed too. But, I'm totally against it. I oppose it. I mean, I don't want to take away anybody's livelihood because we all have to make a living. But, I just don't think a residential area is in a backyard less than, a yard that's less than an acre is a place to, run that type of business. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Next. We'll close the public hearing. After hearing the various considerations from the county commissioner and also from the citizens out there and from the applicant, it's my opinion this fails to meet the general requirements for special exemption and special standards that are listed here. So I don't think we have any other choice on this. I'll entertain a motion on it.
Mr. Chairman, for those very reasons given, it's just not compatible. That's another, it's just not compatible, that type of business with the neighborhood, and I would move to deny. And I don't know if they can make him straighten out that ditch and stuff next to the road where he's filled it there to straighten out the drainage problem.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
Got a second. Any further discussion?
When will they have to move all that, the equipment, or when, Tanya, how long does he have for the
30
applicant?
days.
Sir? Sir?
So typically, when if an application is denied at the BZA, the business needs to cease and desist effective immediately, and we give them about 30 days to remove all the equipment and everything from the property.
Okay, thank you. Just clear that up.
Call the roll, please.
Mike Curtis,
Yes.
Amber Brown, Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Renee Curtis.
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. You want to go ahead and repeat that again so everybody will know?
So Mr. Ramos, based on the denial of the application, will be required to cease and desist the business activity out at this property, and he will have 30 days to remove the equipment from the property. However, the access to the back driveway might take care of that quicker.
And she will see that it's strictly enforced. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. Do we have anything else? We are adjourned. Thank you.